Hey everyone, I'm Kate All with Simple Pin Media. We help people, bloggers and businesses manage their Pinterest accounts, and we also aim to teach people about Pinterest in really simple, actionable steps that help them put them into practice and continue to business build using Pinterest. And every so often, I like to do blab interviews with people who are talking about Pinterest, who are using Pinterest to further their business or blog. And this week we have Jennifer Fishkind, who has met with Pinterest, and she posted this great article about her meeting with Pinterest back in October. And I was just so impressed with all the things that were written in the article and how they were such sound advice, really good business building practices that I subscribe to, and I have wanted to get her on for a while. And so finally we have arranged it. So Jennifer, tell me a little bit about you and your blog and just what you love about Pinterest.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. I was really honored to be asked to do this. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I blog at Princess Pinky Girl, and my blog is about 2.5 years old, and I love doing it. I've got the best job in the whole wide world.
Mm-hmm.
And until about 3 years ago, I was working in the nonprofit industry. I worked for Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation for their national headquarters as a program development and training manager.
Okay.
So, and you know, for reasons that aren't really important, I guess today, I left that job and decided to stay home with my kids. And while I was doing that, I was planning my son's bar mitzvah, and I got on Pinterest and started looking for ideas and, started pinning stuff. And this is when Pinterest was really new, when you still needed an invitation to even get on. And I quickly, as anyone who uses Pinterest, which is all of you, know how obsessed you can get. And
a giant time suck.
I got totally sucked in. And a couple months after his bar mitzvah, the theme was a camp theme bar mitzvah. So I was pinning a lot of kind of rustic wedding ideas, because I was doing the thing by, doing everything by myself, and the rustic wedding ideas kind of translated well over to it. And a couple months later, my niece called me and she said, Auntie Jen, do you know you've got like 1 million followers on Pinterest? I'm like, well, I was like, doesn't everybody? I'm like, I just assumed that everybody, had all, everyone kind of followed everyone. And as I started watching it, my numbers just kept going up. And then I started, kind of looking into it and thinking, well, gosh, I would think at that time I was like number 40 in the world or something, and started thinking there's probably got to be something I can do with this, and something I can create and make it into something of my own, a business. And that's when I started getting into a little bit of referral advertising and working with some companies doing that. And then I, decided, well, gosh, I've got all these followers on Pinterest. Maybe it's time to like move them over to somewhere else. And, again, not rely on the Pinterest platform for my business that I had created. And I started my blog. So I was kind of like a backwards blogger, where I had the social media following first, and then moved to the blog, really which, cool. Now it's a full-time, probably full-time plus job. I work more on my blog and my social media than I ever did in my, quote unquote real world job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And so was it, after you got that first 1 million followers, how quickly then was it that growth to the 3.5 million you have today? Has that been just in the last couple of years?
Well, I mean, honestly, no. I mean, it was a pretty quick growth at that time, because I was such an early adapter that helped me with my growth. And, I was part of the onboarding when they were trying to get new people on. They were highlighting my board a lot. So, I mean, with that part, the first million or two was luck. Yeah. And then I worked for it, pretty hard. Yeah. But, now they are constantly taking spam accounts out of Pinterest. So I know a lot of people have been discussing that they're seeing their followers fluctuating, and I am as well. I mean, mine right now is going down, but it doesn't really concern me for a couple reasons. One is because the chunk of my followers that are active are the ones that aren't going away. So the number is just it's really just a number. So I'm not too concerned about that. But the other part is that Pinterest, and we'll talk about this later, is very focused on their search engines. And because, you're not seeing pinning in real time anymore, it's all about, being search friendly. And, the followers definitely helps, and it helps me rank higher in the searches, but that piece is very important.
Right. And I think that's a good thing to stress, that just because you have the 3.5 million doesn't mean that you can kind of just throw in the towel and give up and ride the wave. Like, it's still a lot of work. And I know that you and I had touched base too a couple months even before that about the loss of followers and seeming like these really big accounts, we're just losing them super fast.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate just your perspective on not freaking out about it, but really just going with the ones who are going with you, moving with them, and really giving your followers what they want. And that will continue to build, especially when it comes to search.
Right. Well, and I think it's also really important to just stay true to yourself and who you are as a pinner. Because people are looking at my account for a reason. They like it. They like what I pin. And I don't want to change it to try to increase my followers. If it's not authentic and it's not me, then I'm going to lose even more.
Absolutely. Totally agree. So let's talk about your meeting with Pinterest. So how did that come about? It sounds super exciting. I'm super envious.
It was like the mothership for me. I was so excited to go to Pinterest. I can't even tell you. And the people there are amazing. So it was really fun.
I heard great things. So tell me how that came about, and then what was their purpose in inviting you?
So I went to a conference. It was called Click New York City, and it was a very, very small group of bloggers. It's run by Today's Mama, and it was probably one of the most valuable conferences as a blogger that I've been to. It's amazing. Wow. And it was, I think there was like maybe 20 of us total. And it was part of the itinerary that Pinterest invited us to come to have a kind of a roundtable discussion with them. And we got to meet with their community manager, Enid, which I know a lot of people are familiar with. She was incredible and has the coolest hairstyle ever.
She does.
She's so cool. And she was really great. I mean, they asked for our questions before, and we were able to ask questions again, after. We were there for a couple hours just sitting in a room and talking Pinterest and, hearing what we got to get the answers to a lot of the myths that were out there. There was no question that they didn't answer, which was fabulous for us. It really, to me, opened my eyes on a lot of things. So it was really, really super helpful.
So did you feel like you got really good answers? They weren't just kind of pat answers, but you felt like they really heard you and really answered in a way that was appropriate.
They were very good. It was a lot of meat behind it. And they weren't just giving us, top level answers. They were really giving us the down and dirty of why Pinterest runs the way it does, and why, what's important when you're pinning and when you're creating a pin and you're blogging. And I thought it was, the information was so valuable. I was like, my notes were like going crazy, I bet. What was great was actually after I wrote the article that you read, Enid had read it, and she gave me a couple corrections on things that I didn't I misunderstood. And so I went back and I explained that in the article, things that maybe I changed, she corrected, and I put that she corrected it in there. So that was helpful as well.
Super helpful. So let's tackle the first one that I love, and you touched on it just a second ago, but talking about Pinterest search. Really the key being Pinterest is funneling towards like a Google-like format, if you will.
Yeah.
So what did you feel like you took away that was really important about search?
Pinterest puts it's a huge emphasis on the search. They look at themselves as a giant search engine. And because, like I mentioned before, that the feed isn't in real time anymore, that makes it really important for pinners to pay very close attention to making sure that their material and their pictures are high quality, and that they're SEO ready and they're searchable. And they suggested a couple things to do that. One was making sure your article title is very SEO friendly. as well as your your alt tags are really important as well, because when someone goes to your site and they click on the pin it button, that's the description that's going to pull up, which then is going to be search within Pinterest. Pinterest is going to do their little scan on it, and that's what they're going to really be searching. So you want
so many people forget that. It's a really easy thing to overlook.
And the thing is that it's a really, really easy thing to do for your audience, because, I might go and pin something and put a really great title or really great description in that is, SEO friendly. The average person's just going to click pin it and pin it. And they're not going to change the description at all. So if you can populate that description for them, not only are you doing them a service, but you're doing yourself a service for when it's, making sure that it's search friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to think of my mom pins, and I watch her pin, and she literally just goes through. She doesn't pay attention to anything. She doesn't correct anything.
Right, you get pin happy, and you're just clicking that button and going, right?
Exactly. Yeah. She's not interested in correcting a single thing, even if it says like image 08315 or whatever.
I gotta love those. And I'll tell you, in my analytics sometimes, which I'm going to talk about hopefully in a few minutes, because analytics are like my world.
Yeah.
I'll see pins that do have that. Sometimes in some of my higher up pins do have those, crazy titles in there from the image, with the image titles, and it makes me want to cringe, and it's my fault for not changing that alt tag. So the other thing they said about searches is that it's also searching boards. So your board titles are really important. And I went through and changed a lot of my board titles where they were like cute and kitschy. You really want those to be, if you're doing a board on easy recipes, call it easy recipes, because it's gonna search that as well, and the description of your boards as well.
It's so true. And one of the things that really struck me about your article for sure is that idea of the text overlay on your photo making a difference in search. That was
and she did correct me on that a little bit, because it doesn't scan. It's not necessarily scanning the wording on it, but she felt that the overlay. So it doesn't make it. It doesn't matter to the search, but it makes it a more actionable pin, which is then helpful to pinners, so that they get, the pin gets more action. So people are seeing what it is. And that's really important. She definitely had, thought that overlays were really important and made the pins more actionable, was what she said. And I thought that was a really good point. But the other thing that she, that she said, and that I also am a big firm believer in it, is people can go a little crazy with that as well. And just because there's all these cute fonts, doesn't mean you necessarily want to use them and in different rainbow colors and all that. So
super scripty, so they're hard to read.
So it's hard to read. So use those fonts that are the tried and true, that are going to be really good. Good fonts. That's all I can say. The ones that are easy to read.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we know that 80 or 90% of people use Pinterest on mobile. And some of those screens can be pretty small. So if you have an unreadable font, because it's so scripty, people are just going to go right by it. Whereas a lot of times, if you have a good text overlay, people will be pulled in by that. And
or if they can't tell what the picture is, all of a sudden they're seeing it. So while it is, originally I did write, and I thought she had said, and she corrected me, that it was searchable, which I couldn't really figure out how it could scan the picture and be searchable like that. It's not that it's searchable. It's more, it makes the more popular and more actionable.
Got it. Okay. That's a good thing to note. And also just, again, a good reminder about picking a really good font. For you on your blog, do you try to stick to the same font, the same type of look for each text overlay?
I don't. It depends. For me, it depends on what the particular article is on, and it needs to fit that. So I know there are a lot of people, for branding purposes do, and I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I have another site that we do use the same font for every pin that we do. But, I do spend a lot of time when I'm making my images on making sure that, and I tend to use the same fonts a lot, but I don't have a standard font that I use.
Okay, got it. So active boards, that was another thing we talked about.
I thought that was really interesting, and I was sorry, my phone's ringing in the background.
Okay.
I thought it was really interesting because I had like 125 boards or something, and I was really only active on a handful of them. And basically, if you're not active on a board, the search engine isn't going to really actively search it as well. So, which I had no idea about that. So one, I'm trying to be more active on my other boards. I mean, I do have one really big board that I pin primarily to, but I'm trying to pin more to some of the other boards as well to keep them active and keep them in the search engines. And if I'm finding that I'm not active in it, or it only has a handful of pins, I'm deleting it. And you do lose some followers with that. If you have followers who are just following that board, then you're losing them. But if you think about it, a little bit deeper, you're not pinning to theirs, so they're not seeing your stuff anyways because they're just following that board. So, clean them up. If you're not using it, get off of it.
And another great tip that I have started using and testing if it makes a difference is the option of moving it to secret. Now you can have I love that option.
I'm all over them.
It is the best. So taking a board that we haven't used for a long time, moving it to secret, and then it does drop the number of boards, which is super helpful.
I haven't even thought about that. That's a great idea.
Yeah. It is. And then you don't really have that worry of deleting followers. And so I found that it's worked really, really great. And I actually tested it to see if I could move it to secret and then a month later delete it and I wouldn't lose followers, but that didn't work. You still lose followers.
But again, those aren't followers if they're just following that board. If they're following other boards, you don't lose them. But if they're just following that board and you're not active on it, it's, it's not really doing you any good.
So true. So true. I agree. So, you wanted to touch on analytics. You had mentioned something about that. And so I'd love to hear your feedback on that because we are a firm believer here in analytics at Simple Pin. We track all of our clients, Google Analytics, Pinterest Analytics, all of that because we think they're so
well, I can't, like I told you, I came from a world of nonprofit, which it's all about the numbers and it's all about statistics and growth and all that. So numbers are really important to me, which is why when I do lose followers, it does give me a little bit of heart palpitations, but I'm trying to be better about it.
It does to all of us. You're normal.
Right. But the Pinterest Analytics are really good and there's a lot you can do with them. And I obsess over them. I look at them every day. And, I will repin pins that are doing well onto the same board, which a lot of people think is a no-no, but as long as they're spread out, I think it's okay. So I'll find pins that have juice behind them that are doing well. So if I have a pin that's repinned, it's one of my all-time best pins, I'll repin that periodically onto the same board, onto other boards, because I know that it's doing well. Pinterest likes that positive juice that's going on behind it. So if you have a pin that's already doing well and you're pinning it, it's showing that and then it does well again, it's getting good activity. It already has something behind it. So I use the all-time pin, the all-time best pins a lot. I use the best click, the top clicked. In analytics, that's a big one for me because obviously one of my goals is to get people, to my website. So the ones that are top clicked are, I know that they're driving, business there. So that's great.
Definitely.
So I'm a big analytics person. I think that Pinterest does a really good job with it. And I'm sure it's something that they're continually improving. But if you haven't spent time on your Pinterest analytics and getting to know them and love them, go and enjoy them because they're wonderful.
Yeah. I would definitely, just add to that too, that there's great keys in what type of content people love, especially if you go into the interest section, you can see what boards they're actually being pinned to. And we had a client that we had done a review for that was great because we discovered people really liked healthy breakfasts and healthy snacks and cocktails, which was such a funny mix, all three. But it really lined up well with what type of traffic was coming to her site as well, and then what her top posts were. So it was such a good correlation to see that what she was pinning was actually resonating well with her users.
Right, right, right.
So yeah, it is great to just do a deep dive into that and see what you
Yeah.
can discover.
So if you haven't like gotten into them yet, dig in and like call me. I'll help you with them. I love it. I do. I love looking at it. I love knowing, and I love knowing like what people are interested in at the time. And the all-time pins are just, to me, fascinating. I mean, people love, Halloween on my boards. They love, like, the Halloween stuff is popular all year round for me.
Yeah. And you know what's a really cool tip just to share with people who are listening is that we just tested it with a really great stocking stuffer pin on someone's account that was it was from last year. And we started to see this growth on it. And so we started to pin it quite a bit more. And we just saw it skyrocket and just take off like crazy. And so that seasonal stuff is really important to pay attention to in analytics, because you just never know when it kicks into gear.
Well, and listen, I was pinning Christmas in August because you need to get those pins out there again to get some juice behind them. And people are not, it's like right now, if you look at Pinterest, it's filled with Christmas. It's but in August it wasn't, and I didn't get yelled at too much for it. But another thing,
you can sneak one in every once in a while.
Another trick that I do is, because I pin a lot for myself, like I'll repin my own pins. Sometimes I'll do a search just for Princess Pinky Girl, which is my site, and see what other what's coming up high in the search engines for Princess Pinky Girl. And I'll repin from other people who are pinning my stuff, so I get some variation on my board, but it's still pinning my content. Does that make sense?
Okay. So this brings me to a really great question. So we talk about pinning through analytics. So schedulers, that is also, it's a myth too, that people hear that scheduling makes this difference.
We asked at Pinterest about it, and they said that it does not look any differently about, if you use a scheduler or not. I have a couple tools that I love, which one is Viral Tag, which I think is an amazing scheduler. Especially for Pinterest, and now you can use it for like Instagram and and Facebook and everything, and I love it. It has some really, really great tools, especially the newer version of it, which I didn't know there was a newer version, and I just switched over to it.
Yeah, they just got their own API,
which is great. So Pinterest doesn't mind that at all. Another one which a lot of people don't know about is Board Booster. Do you know that one? Love Board Booster. I've recently become obsessed with it. What's really great about it is that, so I have a Pinterest Pinky Girl secret board that I put all my articles, all my stuff on, just for my site. And so I have I have it scheduled so that every day it's going to pin out at least 3 to 5 of those pins automatically. And so it's recirculating all my content constantly. So it's like set up in a loop, and it's like, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to go pin it. It does it for me to the boards that I choose, and it's constantly recirculating old content on. Love it.
Right. Yeah, it is a good program too. And what I love that you do with it is you don't just set it and kind of walk away from it, but that you are also engaging with your Pinterest analytics, and you are live pinning, and you're doing more, of that kind of activity, which is really good, because we do see a lot of people just kind of walk away.
You absolutely can't. But they also have a group board manager. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah,
fabulous. I love that.
Yeah, it is a great program. Next time we need to have you on to talk about Board Booster.
I've never used it, and I just started the last couple of weeks, and I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, it is a good one. We don't use it here with our clients at Simple Pin, but I know a lot of people that use it and love it. It's a big time saver for them that they totally appreciate.
Sure. But the pin schedulers do not hurt you. So that was a myth debunked. It does not hurt you, according to Pinterest. So embrace them.
That is good. Thank you for clearing that up, because I still feel like I see posts about it. I see people talking about it. And I really do think that somebody had mentioned that maybe it could have been, kind of from Facebook. Facebook talks about they kind of shy on schedulers. So kind of been translated over to Pinterest, but we don't see the same thing.
Right. No, they're good. They're cool with that.
So, before we kind of move on to our last couple questions, is there anything else you want to share about your meeting? Anything you feel like just you walked away with kind of this I mean, the whole thing was this aha, like you said, mothership moment.
Yeah.
But any other things that you just felt were so impactful?
I mean, I think, we kind of touched on the highlights of it. I mean, they're coming up with some really cool things, and they're really there to work with us. I mean, they totally get the fact that, like, if it wasn't for bloggers and, that's what makes up their content. And I was really impressed with them overall, and just their openness to share information. And like I said, answer any questions we had.
That's really encouraging for they are a big company now. So to really be listening to people who are helping to move their platform is really important.
For sure.
So what are your biggest tips for new users starting out on Pinterest? It's a completely different landscape than, when you started, when it was invitation only. What would you tell them now, new blogger, new user?
I mean, I think one of the tips would be, again, the analytics. I bet we touched on that, is that you really need to know what your audience is looking at and liking, so that you know where to go with it. So again, use it, love it. Two, and this is just for, this business overall, is networking. And it's working with others. Like, it's such a big space that we're in. And the more we can work together, the more we boost each other up, the more we boost up ourselves. And, there's no reason to get competitive over this, because there's plenty of space for all of us. And that's what I love about it. And, I've got a really good group of bloggers that I work with, and all we do is build each other up. And when we see us building each other up, we do better. And we're all talking about a lot of the same things, but we're all, sharing each other's content. So get with a group of people that you can work with and support each other. And that's the biggest reason for my growth. I mean, 100%. But I think last is, don't forget why you started using these tools. I didn't start using them because of a business. I started using it because I loved it. And as soon as you stop loving it, and as soon as you stop using it like that, your audience will know. So, think about the way that you use it when you first started, and before you're using it for business, and try to put your mind in the head of people who just love Pinterest and just want to get out there and see great content and share that kind of content that they love. Be authentic.
And I think exactly. And I think that's where you create the useful, helpful tools, because you then see what your readers are looking for or what they would love. And you, like you said, if you're on it for fun, it's helpful and useful.
Right.
And what would be appropriate for your audience to, increase growth.
Right. Just, sit down on it one night and just play on Pinterest like you used to. That's one thing I miss, because I don't do enough anymore, is I don't just scroll through my feed anymore and see like what's going on, and what's out there. So.
Yeah. And I think another helpful tip alongside with that is watch someone who's not a Pinterest for business user. Watch what they do. Watch how they use Pinterest and what they click on and scroll through. That's been really helpful for me. To watch my nieces are in their 20s.
Right.
So I get to watch them. And then I have other friends who are young moms, and they're, nursing and reading articles on Pinterest.
Right.
And it kind of opens up my world to see how a user does use Pinterest instead of just a business mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we forget that. And again, as soon as we lose what's authentic about our Pinterest accounts or about us, and then they know, everyone knows.
Oh, so, yeah, it becomes stale for sure instead of lively.
Right.
So there was a few questions kind of along the way. Green Blessings asked, do you add your name to all your pins? I'm assuming what she means by that is maybe in the pin description.
I don't. Sometimes I do, but I don't think a ton of people are going and, searching Princess Pinky Girl, for their pins. So no, I don't. I focus more on making sure that it has the good descriptive words. That's really where my focus is, on it. Sometimes I'll put it in there, but, usually no.
Yeah. The only times I think I'll do it sometimes is when I know I have a really recognizable brand, because you can click on the, if you did at Princess Pinky Girl or whatever, but it is sometimes, it's hit or miss. I haven't seen if it
Mhm.
helps or if it hinders, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would say it's time to try it.
Yeah. I mean,
It could
listen,
work.
if it's working for you, do it. But,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. I totally
Yeah.
agree. So Jonathan Tripp, he asked, so ever X of days it will repin your old pins. I'm assuming he's talking about Board Booster here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, regarding Board Booster. So, every number of days it will repin your old pin. So you have it
I
set on a
I have it.
looping to go how often?
Yeah. So I do like, I think I have it set for 3 pins a day. And so it'll go through
Okay.
all, I've got a couple hundred pins on there. So it's going to be a while before it's going to regenerate a pin. And I think there's actually a way, but I don't use this, that it can delete your old pin if you want it to.
Yeah, it does. It's called Pin Doctor,
Right, right,
and
right.
it will go through and do
But
that.
I don't delete old pins. I know a lot of
Mm-mm.
people will say they go through, and we did ask about that. There was an article
Oh, good.
about a while ago about somebody who went and
Hmm.
went and deleted a ton of pins, and it totally redid. And they said there's really no truth behind that. I mean,
Yeah,
it may have worked for her, but it's not something that by going through and deleting you don't need to spend the time going through and deleting your old pins. I don't.
yeah.
I mean, if I don't have a pin that does great, I
Hmm.
don't go through, and I pin way too much to ever do that. I think I've got like 17,000 pins or something. Um, I, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I don't spend the
Hmm.
time to do that, and I don't think Pinterest really
Yeah,
cares if you have some pins that don't do well, because not every pin is going to be a home run.
exactly. I agree. And I don't think that deleting pins is business
Mm.
building. I think it's actually taking away from business
Me,
building.
me
So
too.
I always say, you are going to do something, is it furthering your business? And we haven't really seen any good evidence that deleting pins works. So I'm not going to really put forth the effort
Well,
into it because I want a business
well,
build.
and if you're repinning something, even if it's repinned a couple times, it's repinned. So, I mean, it's
Yeah.
out there. It's in the Pinterest world. Let it go. You never know, and it might
Right.
catch on from someone. You
Yeah.
know.
That's really true, especially when we talk about the smart feed. I know that, there's that delay. Like you said, you pinned Christmas in
Right.
August. You just never know when it's really going to kick into
Right.
gear and when it's going to take off. We've had
Right.
pins kind of lay dormant for a
Mhm.
while and then just
Boom, right? And
explode.
I've seen
Yeah.
about the delay, like I've seen about, for me, 2 to 3 days, like I'll pin stuff and 2 to 3 days later I'll
Yes.
go back and I'll see where it may have only had a couple repins and then it's a couple hundred. So there is
Yeah.
a delay, and they did mention something about the way that that and I know they keep trying to shorten the delay, that it goes in, I'm not sure what the technical term is for it, where it's scanning,
Okay.
and
Like that
yeah,
smart
right.
feed
So,
generator type
right.
thing.
So it's
Hmm.
not like if you pin something today, it's not going to necessarily get into the search engine feed
Hmm.
immediately. It might take a couple days for it to pick it up. So I have personally found about 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, I noticed when I look through my home feed that sometimes the pins will be like 3 days, 4 days. Rarely do I get something that is
Immediate.
immediate.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the only time I actually notice is the immediacy is if you go to explore interests on Pinterest. So you have
Mm-hmm.
the tiny boxes. That seems to be a chronological
Right.
feed in real time. But since that's not your home feed,
Right.
it's not what you're going to be seeing all the
Oh,
time.
and something interesting on what you just said. So when it does do the searches, at the top of the top of the thing, so it'll say, if I search Princess Pinky Girl, it'll say recipes, crafts, and you can then narrow it down. Those are your popular categories, and I think the most popular ones are the first,
Yes.
second, third going across, which I thought was interesting.
Okay. I'm going to have to do that. Yeah, I always thought they just kind of clumped it up there as, here's just your
No,
categories.
it's based on popularity, and that's something good to think about when you're using your keywords. Is so if
Yes.
it's recipes that are your most popular, you want to make sure that you're getting some of those words in there that are in those categories across the top. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally does. Yeah, with everything that any recipe we do, we always put that recipe,
Right.
just don't leave it blank. Um, let's see what else. So Jonathan Tripp, so under deleting pins is more vanity. Yes, it's really about how it makes you feel better the more pins you have on repins you have. Let's see. It doesn't say that repinning is part of their plans. Which plan are you on? let's see, do they all do that? Yeah. So as far as Board Booster, they all do essentially repin from that board, if that's what you're kind of referring to. The free one, yes, you can start out with the free Board Booster. It'll do that type of same thing. I don't know how many you get free. It's like 100 or something.
I'm not sure what plan I'm on.
Okay, so we're going to kind of wrap up here. But I know that you have a fantastic blog. I love looking through your pictures. You have so much great content on there. So where can people find you if they want to ask you more questions or even just follow your blog?
Yeah, my blog is princesspinkygirl.com. Don't ask about the name. It's a long story. And I'm also on Facebook. Facebook.com/princesspinkygirl.com. And I've recently gotten into videos. So I've had some videos that have gone a little viral over the last couple of weeks, which has been really fun. I've learned a lot about videos, which is great for Facebook. It's really, I've had huge growth in the past, like probably 4 weeks because of them. So if you're not in video, get in video.
Yes.
So you can find me there.
And on Pinterest.
On Pinterest, it's actually under J Fishkind, because that's where my account was set up. So for Jennifer Fishkind, so it's Pinterest /J Fishkind, and that's FISHKIND.
Awesome. And you can find me at simplepinmedia.com, and it's the same across Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Simple Pin Media. So you can follow along there too. We share lots of tips about Pinterest every week. And next week, our hope is to launch a big 2016 Pinterest planner that we're going to give away for free. So people can really, plan out their Pinterest for the whole year and not feel crazy overwhelmed with everything. But I just, again, really appreciate you sharing the information with us and really giving us a lot of insight into Pinterest. I think it really helps us identify with them and helps us see them not as just this big company that wants to make all these changes and make money, but really people who care about the pinners that are pinning on their platform.
Right.
So I just appreciate that greatly.
Well, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.